Let's do it.
Well, hello and welcome to another AAMA Member Connect webinar, where we ask the experts for their insight into the challenges of today. Today's webinar is titled Understanding, Surviving, and Thriving the Next 24 Months in an FEC. This conversation will be led by my friend Beth Stanley, and she'll be joined by a group of well-known industry luminaries, including Cindy Fernandez from 50 Estate Coin-Op, a company that started 123 years ago, Howard McAuliffe from the Pinnacle Entertainment Group, who has climbed 4 volcanoes, and George Smith from Family Entertainment Group, who's been seen riding elephants. Beth is the
Oh,
founder and CEO of Tradertainment and president of the American Amusement Machine Association. I got to know Beth well during the COVID crisis when she and her team organized Peer Talk, a weekly Zoom meeting with people from across the industry that some weeks had more than 100 attendees. She used her vast network of industry connections to bring us together and talk about how we were navigating the crisis. These weekly meetups provided a wealth of useful information and an important place to connect in an otherwise completely disconnected world. She's also the author of People Buy from People: How to Personally Connect in an Impersonal World. Beth and her company coach and train leaders and teams who want to grow in sales, service, and leadership. Before I hand this over to Beth, I want to let you know we want to hear from you. If you have a question you'd like answered, please enter it in the chat section, and I'll be sure to bring it up as those questions come in. And with that, Beth, I'm going to let you introduce the rest of the group, and here we go.
it's awesome. I love it that you had those sneaky little facts. Howard, you'll have to tell me more about volcano climbing. That's weird.
Mhm.
I am. It's just my honor to be able to facilitate this conversation. Uh, each of these each of these folks have so much industry experience and exposure, so I can't wait to have them share their brilliance with you. And Pete, thank you for that lovely introduction. You can introduce me any day, anywhere. That was pretty fantastic. So, listen, I know that we're trying to find our way through a little bit of crazy, and I'm curious. I do. Uh, George, I'll come to you first, and you tell a little bit more about your background and what you're doing. But as you all are introducing yourself, the thing I'm wanting to understand, and I would assume the audience wants to know, is with the way things are today, what are what do you feel like the biggest change is that you've had to make in your business over the last 12 months?
Um, I'm George Smith. I'm executive chairman with Family Entertainment Group based in beautiful Itasca, Illinois. We operate in about 29 states across the US and growing. Um, well, for me, it's a change as CEO to something less than CEO right now. Uh, that's been the biggest change for me personally, but professionally, it's seeing the speed with which change is coming to all facets of life right now. Um, I think this is an industry that's rolled in various waves, going from mechanical games to video games, from video games to home games necessitated a change to redemption games, and we've had, frankly, a good 30 years, I'd say, of improving and survivability in a tough community. Right now, though, I think we're at a phase where manufacturers are probably producing as good, if not better, equipment than they ever had before. Unfortunately, the winds of it are nothing stays the same anymore. You have to be aware of the social trends as well as the economic trends. And now you've got, I don't think that there's been a huge change and a huge advent of technology as we've seen in other things. Right now, I think cranes are riding higher than they ever had before, and that's great. But I don't see a technological change and that creativity, even though the equipment is better, we're waiting for something that's really, really wonderful. And that's always been the spur to something from pinball to video games to whatever. That's,
Amazing.
I think, the change I'm looking for.
That's interesting. Well, and you jumped right in there with a giant human crane and did something real out of the box thinking. And what kind of success have you guys seen with that in location and even as far as being able to be the manufacturer to sell that product?
It was a combination of trying to come up with several different ideas morphing into one, which is cranes are, as I said a second ago, working really well. But how do you add in the human element to it, and how do you get attention to that quickly? So we're about 4 or 5 years. We've now got about 250 plus human cranes out there, about 15 feet by 15 feet, and you go in and you become the claw. And what has worked out so well, it's been the highest earning piece we've ever had.
Oh, wow.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars per unit per year. So a shameless plug if you want to buy a good piece of equipment. But um, what we've tried to do is we're now morphing it into how do you get the customer who's coming up and taking pictures? We're putting video capture on it so that you can send it to your email or your web portal in some form or fashion that's there to capture the moment. And so it's that combination of technical and social and making something that can't be done someplace else, especially not on your couch.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I love that. Alan Weisberg and them do that with, with Faceplace, and you can get your picture taken, and then they can put you on a billboard in Times Square or something like that. That's cool. Like that's something you can't do at home, right? So
That's
that's
correct.
very cool. Uh, Alan, you got a shameless plug. Sorry about that. That's not what I meant to do. Sydney, tell them more about your background and why you need to be an expert here with us today to help what's going on out there. And your places are typically a much smaller footprint than like a
Yes,
giant FEC, right?
yes, yes. So I am vice president of Fun Factory, a family business that I've been involved in my entire life. So yes, we operate a chain of much of smaller venues. We're typically very community based, local. Our core customer are families. We try to offer something, a value experience for the entire family. Um,
Okay. That's
yeah.
great. That's great. And,
So.
and and based on all the crazy that's been going on, what's the biggest change you've made in your business over the last 12 months?
Well, I think, there's several things that we're doing. George spoke to what people are wanting to experience really well. I still think people want a connection. They want an experience, and they're expecting more. And
Yeah.
the way that they are going about coming into our spaces, I know we're going to touch on AI a little later, but we're finding that the way people are trying to engage with our centers is different. They're not just doing just your typical Google search anymore. They're using a lot of that, AI. Hey, where can I go? What can I do?
Oh, yeah.
Um, and then alongside that, we're seeing, as many people are experiencing, I think, this rise in the cost of doing business, and especially here in
Definitely.
Hawaii with, fuel, transportation, shipping. So it's really forcing us to do what we can to control those things and really hone in and you got to know your numbers, control your expenses, and still be able to offer people an experience, something they can't get at home. And we're really leaning into our local dedicated return customer.
That's interesting. That's great. That's great. Howard, um, you were born into the industry just as Sydney was, and uh, I don't know, your dad put you to work when you were in grade school, right?
Yeah, if you count secret shopping and playing games and telling them what I thought, yes. And then over the years, I grew up mostly on a route. My dad ran a big chain of FECs, and then we started a route when I was in high school and started our company. And then over the years, after we sold all the operations, we have been consultants helping other people to add or optimize family entertainment to all different types of facilities. And then the last 12 months, we've come full circle and got back into operations and buying a bowling center. So, we've done a lot of consulting other people on what to do. Now we have to show that we can actually do it.
That's awesome. Well, so it's a great question because you've not been 12 months in operations yet, except you have with Pinnacle. You've been in business since 1998,
6,
96.
6.
So in the last 12 months, I guess if you think about Pinnacle, what are the biggest changes made? What shifts, what pivots have you made in your business?
We've shifted in a couple of ways. Think that there is a shift in the marketplace towards people looking for value, and that is including people that have money. They want to get more for it, and they're going to be more discerning with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, how can you offer packages that provide more value? That we have not gone the route of massive discounting, which some of the bigger chains have, because it's hard to do that when you have higher costs, right? Like
Well, right,
all
like
of our
what
costs
Kelly
are
was.
higher. So
Yeah.
you discounting, you can really hurt yourself doing too much of that. So if you can provide it sounds cliche, but if you can provide a good customer experience and you can give them more for their money, um, the better off you are. So like we focus a lot in our bowling center where you can come to our place. I still want you to spend the same as if you went to a chain that's going to cost more for bowling. But if you're going to spend money in the arcade, buy some food, get a drink, if you spend the same money, and get more for it, that's what we're trying to lean into with marketing and with our offerings. Not so much discounts, but added value, if that makes
Well, that's
sense.
right. And sometimes it's even added perceived value. If I can play
Mhm.
that a little bit longer and my family had a little bit more fun, well then I got more bang for my buck because when people call and say, "Well, what's your cheapest what's your cheapest blah blah, whatever it is," that's not what they mean. They mean, how do I get the most for my
Hmm.
money? Because I've seen them buy the big package every time,
Hmm.
which was not the cheapest package, and so I think you have to watch that. Sydney, one of the things you said um, was about AI, I think, and how people were
Mhm.
using that to try to find you, or
Mhm.
maybe that was you, George. I know that when I travel, I love to travel, and
Mhm.
I go right to my favorite AI chat box,
Mhm.
and I say, "What what are must do activities
Exactly.
in Cozumel or whatever?" And listen, how in the world do we figure out? We need a marketing person, I guess. How in the world do we figure out that Fun Factory comes up at the top? How do we
Right.
get our places to get included in those lists? Because I do think that that's what people are doing when they're making a decision. There's so much competition. So, anywho, if you had to pick one metric that's really keeping you up at night, what is it, Howard?
Um, Year-over-year sales, as we look at, I mean, that's one that we're always looking at, as well as um, this is one that's maybe a little bit unconventional, but I don't really want to cut staff, and we have lots of things to do. So we're putting money into, like, we have bowling, we have 36 lanes of bowling, so we're putting money into you know the pin setting machines so that we can have less calls, which means we'll need less mechanical work. But I have other things for those people to do that we need to get done. So, you know, how to, I mean, so how to, we're making a lot of investments. The macro economy's tricky, you know, and I think that in the long run and even medium run, if we focus on improving our business and investing in it, that we'll win in the end. Because when things are tough, there's a tendency sometimes to just hold back and not spend
Not do
money or cut
anything.
people and
Hmm.
and and if you have to, you have to, but I don't want to do that. And unfortunately, I think that there'll be a lot of competitors. I think there's going to be the industry is going to shrink, in my opinion, over the next 12 months because a lot of the we haven't had a recession for a long time. There's been a lot of new concepts that have come up that haven't been through a recession. Um, we have with our businesses. So I think there's going to be people that were planning on sales constantly rising like they were after COVID, and they're not going to.
Right.
And if they borrow too much money or don't or aren't well
Mhm.
capitalized, they're going to be in trouble. And those who are getting stronger will get stronger when people go out. Not that you wish it on people, or they decide to sell the land and retire and all that. So, you know, I stay up at night because I believe that, but sometimes I wonder if I'm right. You know.
Right,
You
right,
know?
right.
Beth, let me
Sydney,
interject real quick.
yeah,
Howard, there's a question came in from Jim Chapman on the topic you were talking about earlier. And Jim's asking, Howard, how are you adding value? You talk about you want
Oh,
to add value to the experience for the guest. What does that look like in actual practice?
great question, Jim.
Yeah, so if you think about, we have four main ways that we make money in that building. Um, you have bowling, you have arcade, you have bar, and you have food. So there's, you know, the bowling and the arcade don't have much incremental costs, right? The arcade has like 12%, bowling has maybe a couple of percent. There's no direct cost of goods. Um, and then the food and the bar have a higher cost, especially the food. So the way that we look to add value is we package those things. So like for example, this summer, if you come on the weekend, you're going to get, and you have to book a lane, but you'll get a $20 arcade card, or you can get a $40 arcade card if you want to spend an extra $20. So you can, so you find the things that don't have an incremental cost. And as long as my building's not full, I can provide value there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's packaging those things thoughtfully, because I'm not going to do any food specials because the costs are too high,
That's
right?
awesome. Right.
And people it's very competitive. So
It's great. Thank you. I hope that answers your question, Jim.
mhm.
And thank you for asking it. Sydney, a metric that's keeping you up at night?
oh, I would say for us, it's labor. I
Mhm.
mean, you always have to work and know your numbers, and we're, even more um, compulsive and dedicated to monitoring them. But and I agree, we don't, it's not about slashing and burning. We still feel that human connection is extremely important. Obviously, for us, we need the doors to be open, but it's about really watching any waste, um, monitoring our overtime, the cost of training people. Hawaii, we're much more limited in terms of, when we are opening a location, say in the continental US, our pool of applicants is so much greater. But it would be labor. It's can be hard to find. Costs are going up, and we think obviously it's a critical element.
Are you comfortable to share what kind of percentage of labor that you try to keep your business running at? And does it include, are you looking at it just through the hourly wage group because that's the one we can control, or is it an all-in number that includes management and staff?
It's both, but in terms of just operating, in each location, we've got both elements. But
Okay.
what we're finding is, especially with, again, dipping into AI a little bit, we're finding that we can much more easily, and with a card system, really look at your sales. You can break it down per hour, per venue, and we're really trying to be strategic about how we schedule that labor, because we do not want to sacrifice our guest experience.
Right.
We really think, and have found for us, especially with our local community, we have a lot of repeat customers, that's critical for us. So, but we're using that data analysis to make sure that we don't have, four people on when your sales are much less, but we can do it in a much more real-time manner at this point.
Are you teaching it to your leaders as revenue per scheduled hour or as a percent of total revenue?
In terms of labor,
Uh-huh.
yeah, both,
Okay.
both.
Okay.
I mean, ultimately, the bottom line, it becomes your percentage overall. But we're finding that in terms of looking at your week, we do weekly, all company calls. Typically, they happen actually right now. But so we've got all of our managers on, and we're really involving them and showing them, because I think doubling down, on your expense control, labor is a big one. And if you're smart about it, you can still maintain your guest experience, but really reduce any waste.
Got it. George, how would you approach that answer to that question about the metric that's keeping you up at night? And if you want to comment on how Sydney, on the same question Sydney was talking about, because I would assume labor is a big component for you as well.
Labor is huge. It's one of the few real controllables you have. So we're trying to get a lot more efficient about it, perhaps sometimes too efficient, because you also need, a customer's going to have a great experience if the staff is knowledgeable about the products that they're serving, and especially where we have, a heavy amount of technological things, or, we run fancy boutiques. You're putting out prizes that are there, or cranes, and they all have to look right to get the maximum amount of money that's there. If the staff doesn't know what they're doing and can't do that efficiently, we have a problem. So that is a major thing. I think you're asking what's the item that keeps me up at night. It's being creative and relevant enough to a paying public. There's a fine balance going on right now between spaces that we call social entertainment that's there, which typically mean some form of entertainment with food and bar, not necessarily the bowling centers per se, but from the putt shacks and fair games and things like that are out there. That's neat. That's interesting, but they're usually very expensive because you're going to put them into a high-end market that's there. A lot of people are going to continue to use real estate woes, or at least the U.S. real estate woes, where there's a lot of mall space that's available, and our business can suck up a significant portion of that one. But the question is whether you can remain relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Can you pay back the investment that you're about to make for a long enough period of time to make it there? That's the daunting task. That's maybe where AI really will start to lean in, where you're getting so much data that tells you this is a good decision or this is a bad decision for your investment.
Interesting. I'm curious to know if you guys have a big thought about investing in the next big thing. Like how do you make decisions to purchase this new game, or to invest in an attraction? Or Sydney, you all just added in Maui, like didn't you do duck pin or something? How do you make those kinds of decisions? Because many times those are not inexpensive options. But even Howard, the investment you're making in kind of upgrading pin setters and things like that, those are all. And George, to you, crud, you guys go and make a decision about gathering up a new place into your portfolio. How are y'all making those decisions? Whoever wants to go first.
I'll start. So, I want to know for sure if I'm thinking about it like an arcade game, that the game is earning money, that it's additive, and that it doesn't break down a lot. And that only can happen through testing. So I either want to test it, or I want to talk to someone like George or Sydney who already tested it and find out what really happened. There's less room. I'm thinking, for us, but also for our clients. There's less room for error or to take a risk on something hot and new now. And also, we're thinking more long-term ROI. So for a couple of clients last year, they had very old games that were like skee balls and basketballs that are staples that aren't going to earn a ton of money, but they were breaking a lot, and the costs for parts and things were adding up. So there wasn't a ton of hot new things like must-haves last year. So we spent a lot of money on those to shore those up. Those are assets that are going to last a very long time. They're going to break a whole lot less now. So it kind of depends on the situation, but it's really about value and less risk, I think, for those types of things.
So you want proven payback, but can you always be sure? Because just because something paid back well in Maui, do we know if that really works in Gonzales, Louisiana? Would the same piece have the same return?
Sure. Or if George has a place that has a lot of tourists, is that going to work in the neighborhood? And
Oh yeah,
maybe not,
yeah.
but you have to control for that when you're looking at test numbers, and you can compare things to other similar games, and you can work through some of that, but you can never be sure. But a lot of people go to trade shows and buy things off the floor because they like it. And I definitely would not do that. I'm sure everyone can tell
Agreed.
stories about how they did that and thought it was
Seemed
a
like a
sure
good
thing, and it
idea at the
wasn't. And it
time.
wasn't. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to do a quick AAMA plug here because one of the things you just said is I want to be able to test a game. And what we know is the one guy operator might not be able to get a test. But we know that the Sydneys and the Georges who have 50 and 100 locations, they're testing. They get to test those things. And if you're an AAMA member, well, then you get to know George and you get to know Sydney and you get to go ask them, just like you said. Were you
Mhm.
shamelessly trying to plug AAMA?
No, but it does
But
work for that.
Thank
I
you.
thought I thought you teed that up. That's why I went ahead as Madam President and followed up on that. Sorry about that. George, how do you make a decision to invest or even in a location or an attraction?
Like there's less latitude, as Howard said, for mistakes. So you need all the information you can get. And to reinforce the AAMA shameless plug, it's a question of having a decent network and knowing who is
Yes.
going to sell you.
Yeah.
We used to have there's somebody that's well known to us who I used to work with closely on a daily thing, and um, he's a salesperson. Well, his job is to sell equipment. He
Right.
didn't always, he would always put a good spin on whatever piece of equipment he was going, and that's not necessarily what you need. You need empirical data. And one of the things that I've thought about a lot over the last few years, Bill Gates said a while ago that the problem with most businesses and most countries is they don't look forward or back enough for a long enough period of time. It's hard to look forward 5 to 10 years, but that's really what you're doing. And if you're making an investment and you're thinking it's all you're going to do is you're thinking 6 months out or 1 year out, you're probably making a bad investment
Mm.
because the depreciation on something is a great deal more than that. And that's probably the decision frame you have to look at. So when you're making that decision, is it going to pay for itself 5 years or 10 years down the road? Your facility, the equipment, the repair that you're doing, probably most especially the people that you're investing in, are they going to work out in the long run? And if you're not doing that now with some sort of truly empirical, almost scientific, mathematical data, your gut is not going to give you the right answer. It's going to lead you astray. And I look back and we all have these mistakes. Once upon a time, we could do that, and there was enough latitude to do it. But there's so much more competition, and I would agree with what Howard said before. I believe that there is likely to be a quick shrinking of our industry, however you want to do it. And so to be on the positive side of that one, you have to make really smart decisions
Mhm.
and know that I'm not just going to do this on a temporary basis. I'm going to make a decision that is been thought of 5 different ways to Sunday. And then the balancing act of that one, which is the other end of it, is being creative enough and having the guts to make a decision because that's
Yeah.
the other side of it. If you don't invest enough on a regular basis, you're going to be doomed too. So, two,
What's that look
two,
like? What define regular?
well, I think that we used to have hard and fast formulas for how much we would invest, but I'd say that you're probably looking at a 5 to 10% reinvestment every year in any facility that you've got. Um, I like to do it more, and it used to be in the past that if you'd buy, you have a 50 game center and you replaced 5 to 10 games a year. That was probably the right mix. Now with the price of games and the fact that they take up so much space,
Yeah.
you have to be a little bit careful. But if you are not doing that, I still think it's the same today as it was 10 or 20 years ago. If you don't do that investment this year, let's say you save, I'm not going to spend the $100,000 I might have last year into the facility. Well, that means after doing that for 2 or 3 years, which is what the tendency is going to be, you're going to spend that $300,000 or $400,000 several years down the road. you've probably foregone the sales that they might have brought you, and it's more painful to do it all at once than it is a bit at a time.
That's great advice. That's really good. Sydney, how did you decide to do duck pen in Maui?
Well, I think kind of speaking, I agree with George and Howard as well. I think you need to reinvest, and you need to have something new to offer your customers. And because we are a lot of return customers, we wanted to try to find something that was new, that was exciting, and something that we could, we expanded the space. So it gives us, typically we're quite small, but it gives us a whole new offering, to our customers, and it was something that we could manage. So, you've got to run the numbers. It's got to be proven. So we're really excited about it, and we tend to be very conservative. So we went very slowly, and the cost of real estate here, we're a small little state, so it tends to be quite dear. But we're really excited about it. But it was very careful and thoughtful. It was it's a numbers game, and thinking about what you can offer your community, also to give them something different, to be a venue for your families and the community there. So,
That's awesome.
but yeah, I think it's a delicate balance. I think you must reinvest, but you've got to do it carefully. And I know, this has already been said, but you can't afford anymore to buy 10 pieces of a dud. So
Yeah.
you really, and
Can't
if
afford to make a big mistake. Like,
you
yeah.
can't. And I think even the smaller ones, with all the costs that are associated with bringing equipment and getting it on location, and you can't afford to have them show up and not work. So I think that's where too we've really, or at least in our case, really tried to hold the manufacturers to. They've been really good, but demand that if something shows up and it's not working, and we need new boards, or you need new software,
need 'em
really
now.
getting them on board to respond quickly,
Yeah.
because it's you just can't. There's just very little leeway for that.
I have a quick question, because I think it's probably a question for lots of folks. Are you, I mean, I'm out in the marketplace. Howard, you consult with lots of folks. George, you got a whole bunch of places. You got a bunch of places. Sydney, are you struggling? Are your locations struggling with foot traffic, or with per cap spend? Are people spending less money, or is it both? And if so, have there been some cool initiatives that have worked to help drive that traffic? George, start us off there.
Yeah, for us, I'd say it's both. It is both a traffic question, and once the traffic gets there, it's usually a lower number of traffic that's there, because there's now, where we tend to go, a lot of tourist locations, lots of options for them to do. So we got to grab their attention, and then once we get them there, we have to show some real value. So hearkening back to a couple of things that were said before, it's adding some value as we package things and we give it to them. It's making sure that the equipment works, whatever the equipment is, or attraction. B, that there's a range of prizes that are there, and maybe we tie in something else so that when they get a debit card and they bought a package, and it might be, the prices of the packages have gone up, so it's not just 50 or 100. We have $300 packages and things like that, so that they play for it, but maybe they get tickets, or maybe they get, if you come back tomorrow, every game is half price on the card, or maybe you get a prize that goes immediately with this one. You buy this package, and that entitles you to do this. And because the technology is there, it allows you to do so much more. And we found that probably the biggest selling element, I think this has increased, and the staff is doing a great job on this one, is the debit card station there. The screens have gotten larger, so it allows you to advertise more. And that's, in our facilities, that's the only thing that's really selling. We do less selling at the counter right now. It's automated, that's there. So the information at the debit card station has got to be clear, concise, understandable, and show them the right package pricing as quickly as you can.
Oh, got it. Thank you so much. Thanks. Cindy, what about you all? How's your foot traffic? How's your per cap spend? Are people being more conservative with their money? Are they
Yeah, so I think for us, there's pressure on both. There's pressure on both as well. But we're trying to, like, one initiative we're doing now is with our managers is try to get every week, go get one more birthday party. We're trying to
okay?
also give our staff things that are achievable. And we're finding that even though that isn't necessarily monumental for that one store, that it's very doable for them. And they're getting excited about it because, we're talking about it at our manager meetings. Everybody knows somebody that needs a birthday party. So reach out, see if every store can get one more birthday party this week. Can you do one more upsell this week to
That's great.
try to, maintain people coming in. And, making sure, I think you mentioned it briefly, Beth, but it's value perception too.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
so you have to be careful. Like Howard said, you don't want to necessarily, the costs are rising, so you can't just discount everything. But there are things that you can do. So when you're like, for us, sometimes in our birthday parties, we'll do unlimited play for a certain amount of time, on the video category. It's an
Sure.
easy give. It's not bumping your cost of goods sold, but it really gives your attendees a sense of value. And then the birthday party, child can come back within a certain amount of time and play a few games free, but it brings them back into your store.
Yeah. Oh, listen, a bounce back ought to go with every birthday party, every group event. We need to give people a reason to come back
To
every
come
single
back, to
time.
get them back
That's
in.
easy. That's right. That's right. Oh, you were making my heart happy right there,
Oh,
Sydney.
oh,
That's
good. Oh,
that's a
good.
good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
And quickly on what George said too, with the kiosks, I think your
Oh,
pricing and your packaging being really clear.
yeah.
Really, really clear. And you can process, more people. We still find people like to come up to the POS, and we still encourage our managers that are there to really make a touch point to engage with the customer. But it's got to be, I think on your website, on your kiosk, it's got to be clear, and it's got to be simple.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Too many packages are too many, and 3 is probably max, y'all. Small, medium, large. People have buyers fatigue, decision fatigue in everything. So, yeah.
And keeping it clear and concise, I believe also there's a metric in there for for the AI search engines that they're going to migrate to referring when, like you're talking about, right? You're searching where are you going to go. So if it's clear and it's kind of buildable, I think there's some other elements that are involved there,
Nice.
but it lends itself to the AI search as well.
Oh, fantastic. Howard, you have an opinion there on foot
I do.
traffic or
Yeah. Well,
per cap?
it's both. It's both are down, but I'll give one simple promotion that I found. I was surprised by the amount. So we do a good amount of field trips. It's the end of the school year, so I just figured this out. The how big a deal it was we had a couple a lot of the schools don't want to let the kids play in the arcade. Most of them don't, actually. They want them just to bowl. They don't want them doing video games. We had one that let them buy arcade cards. And so it's about 100 kids. I think we charge $15 a head. So $1,500 for them to come 10 o'clock on a Tuesday. So like we would normally be closed. It's great. We had $20 cards for $10. So we sold all of them, $1,000 worth of those. And then they reloaded another $1,500. So
Right.
So 2,500 in the arcade. So 2,500 in the arcade, and they paid 1,500 in, for the whole package for their two slices of pizza and their bowling. So next year there's going to be a discount if you let the kids buy the arcade card because we're going to make more money, right? So I want to incentivize those schools to let them do it because a lot of them think, and by the
you don't give them a discount. You give them a $3 card or a $5 card. You add value. You give them the card because they will absolutely spend at least what you gave them.
They might. That's something to measure because I don't think $5 is a good experience in an arcade.
Well,
20
that's
is you
fine.
start to
Give them
play.
10. Yeah, okay,
Mhm, mhm.
fine.
Yeah.
But but whatever you were going to discount it, go ahead and just give it, and they'll add to it.
Mm.
If they'll let us, but that it's breaking down that barrier of we don't
Oh,
want the kids to play in the
oh,
arcade. But if you tell the
oh.
school, hey, it's $1,000 instead of 1,500, maybe they'll, that's what I'm thinking might get them off the fence. But it's
We
the end
need
of
to
the
talk.
school year, so
We need to talk more about that because,
yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
yeah.
I have a
Uh,
quick comment on that. Howard, I think, to that point, something that we have done and it's worked, we've worked with the YMCA and some of the summer fun programs, is we tried to add a little bit of an educational element to it.
Right, a
Well,
tour back of
So
house.
so what would that be? We'll just go
how
off
fast is
script here
the
because it's good.
ball going? I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a couple of really good managers, and without going into the details, we tried to explain like, so video games cost X, and then you come on your playing card. If you have $10, you play so many games. And so we just try to do a little bit of a math without giving too much detail. But you'd be surprised at the letters we've gotten back, not only from the students, but from the teachers.
Mhm.
And we have them all sit down, and the manager has a little bit of a,
Howard, what I think you have to do is
storyline.
you have to educate the teachers about, the
Yeah.
value of Chardonnay and Cabernet. And why don't you come back and do a tasting with us for free?
There you go.
Yeah.
You're onto an idea.
Yeah.
I could come facilitate that and make
Mhm.
sure it worked.
That's
This
right.
isn't a, this is, I got a couple comments, Beth, real
Yeah,
quick.
Kara's got a good one here. Yeah.
Jimmy Chapman came back with another question, and this goes to the whole group. What has worked to get the 18 to 30-year-olds to come to your locations? And what are you using to connect them on a consistent basis that has worked?
For that group, it's technology and socialization. So you have to have something that I seem to see that is competitive. Whether it's basketball playing, whether it's trivia, whether it is some sort of an event that gets them down there without, God willing, that they go online and say we have to have a teen rave event or something else like that. But it is getting something that is competitive and creates a moment that socializes them, brings
I,
that group together.
Jimmy, I would also say that one of the popular trends, especially for that age group, is they're not drinking as much. And so mocktails are fabulous
Mm.
because they will pay the same amount of money for a freaking mocktail as they would a cocktail. And from a socialization point of view, then they're going and getting their jam on, but they're not drinking. They're not drinking as much. So I don't know. Howard, how are you getting 18 to 30-year-olds?
I haven't targeted them specifically. They're we get a lot of them. I think that group is even more discerning with their money than the general public because they don't really have, if you look at their incomes, older people tend to have a lot of the money now. So I may sound like a broken record, but I think it has to be a good value for them and an interesting experience. Um, we had one, we got one interesting call. We had one call and say, hey, I want to have my anniversary dinner at your bowling alley. I want to bring a fancy steak dinner and I want to have it in the middle of the bowling alley. Could I do it? I was like, yeah, I guess so. Why not? They did it on a league night. We had leagues on both sides, North Jersey, and this couple having a steak dinner in the middle of the bowling alley with a lava lamp centerpiece. And
Oh, how fun. That's
so
awesome.
anyway, I don't know. That's an example of they wanted to have an experience. Like it's not one that like we're not going to do that all the time. That was kind of a one-off funny thing that the staff thought would be a good thing, but they do want to have experiences and good value for their money.
Yeah, yeah.
And now, Howard, Jimmy came back with a little bit of some advice for you. He says, Pete, please share with Howard to not allow the kids to redeem the points they earned on that trip. Give them a package with 100 points or so of prizes, provided they get back on the bus on time. This will cause all those kids to come back during the next weekend to spend their points and buy more when they are there.
Oh,
Yeah,
not a
and the
fine thing.
teachers will be happy that they got them out of there. That's a good
Yeah,
idea.
yeah, exactly.
That's a good idea.
And Kara Bishkoff says we created a STEM field trip that relates science concepts to the attractions.
Yeah.
Just sent a $2,000 group out, and 100 more kids just arrived.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's and in the bowling center, I mean, you can teach them math. We created this whole thing where you send a worksheet home, I mean, to school, and and with all the instructions, and the teacher taught them keeping score in class, and then they bring them to the field. They bring them to the bowl, and they bowl the first game with no scoring system up, which is I'm doing it by hand. I'm doing the
Yeah.
math part, and then you turn on the scoring system, and now there's the technology part.
Hmm.
It's so fun. So yeah. Anyway, well, I want to do rapid fire real quick because we may have other questions. AI, are you using it, and how so? Howard, you using AI in the center in your business?
Yes.
How?
Um, so we have, I'm married to, my wife came from Google Cloud, which is heavy into AI. So she's doing weekly trainings with us and teaching us how to build AI agents for all kinds of things, creating marketing plans, uh, analyzing data. We can funnel data into it. We have a paid service, so we can keep a lot of our data to ourselves, and it will start to learn on it. So data analysis for um, card data and all kinds of things for ourselves and for other customers, and then building marketing plans. And I'm sure we'll keep going with it. But I think it's important to I'm trying to spend an hour a day. It's hard sometimes working with it because I think that it is going, the people who don't will fall behind, and the
Yeah.
people who do, like, it's going to boost you ahead fast. And one thing,
Yeah.
from our amusement expo surveys, people said they didn't really want to hear about AI, if you remember right. It was not it was something that but I think for that I think that's wrong. So it is increasingly important, and carving aside the time, and when you use a paid model that you pay for,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot better. It's not the same as
Oh
using
yeah.
the free one, and it's worth the investment.
And
I,
and and
I
do
believe.
not don't put your company data out in a free one. Don't do that
Mhm.
because now it's out there.
Mm.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't put confidential stuff in a non-paid for AI. Sydney, are y'all using AI?
Yes, we are. I mean, in similar ways, data analysis, marketing, marketing and things like that. But we're also internally really trying to work with it every day, and even things just accounting processes and getting everybody like we've just created what we're calling a command center. But for us, small business, it's reducing friction. Things are quicker, they're much easier. Everybody can jump in when we do a lot of things working as a team. A lot of us work on a lot of different projects, but we collaborate all the time. And it's a way to instantly, easily, accurately share the data and then analyze it. But we're finding that it's really streamlining many of our processes, especially in terms of um, equipment orders, parts. So we've created a vis-a-vis AI, a portal that we can all access very easily. And it was very inexpensive to create as well.
That's
Whereas
interesting.
I think, a few years ago, that would have been a huge software investment and
Oh yeah.
monthly recurring fees, and it's just not that way anymore.
That's interesting. I wrote down instant, easy, and accurate, and I wonder
Yeah.
when we can get comfortable with the accuracy
Mm.
piece.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do think that that's one of the reasons some people are cautious. I don't know. George, obviously you've mentioned AI. You're doing tons of data. Is there a so what factor? Like, what are you learning with the AI piece, and what
That that
decisions are?
that 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 humans are increasingly less relevant to many things. That's what I'm
Oh,
learning.
oh,
Um, Hate to say, but that's the case because the AI stuff that's there does amazing things
Mm-hmm.
quickly from marketing to sales to the analyzation to inventories to
Hmm.
a whole range of things that used to be very, um,
Tedious.
yeah, exactly. And it's getting rid of that. It may be on the plus side of it, it may be like we used to have phone operators and everything else like that. And that's a lot of jobs that went away, but most people didn't really want those jobs. And it was replaced for at least a period of time up till I get somebody who's working in a foreign country who I can't understand answering the phones, but that's another story. It's just that literally there's no facet of business or life that's not going to be touched by AI. So if you're not getting into it, if somebody is saying, I don't want to pay attention to that and go from that, they've already determined their own outcome. It's
Uh-huh.
just the way it's going to go. You are not going to change it. And if I'm wrong, then several $1 trillion of investment has been put to waste. And I wouldn't bet against those.
Those guys, yeah. Well, listen, I want, are there any other questions? Anybody have a question out there, Pete? Because I have kind of a closing thought that I want each of these folks to share with us.
Well, there's no questions on the board, but I did have one relative to analyzing equipment earnings. You guys, but George, you mentioned they're getting bigger and bigger, and they are. They cost more and more. Howard, you mentioned the necessity for them to be reliable
Mhm.
and have access to parts and service. Are there any other metrics you use besides the cash box when determining the value of a game? Do you look at earnings per square foot? Do you look at utilization? What are
Oh,
some of the hot point metrics that you look at when you're analyzing earnings reports to say, yep, that is a game I'm glad I bought?
Yeah, I mean it's a look forward and look backward type of thing. I mean, for manufacturers, part of it is history. There are certain manufacturers and suppliers that you can count on, and I think that still is going to be the same way for a long period of
Hmm.
time. Um, can you measuring per square foot is there? If you move it around, and now that this stuff is there, can you move a piece around in a room? Has always been the case, but now you can get very specific data about where is the hot spot within your facility? Where, if I move it to place, is it going to have the highest earnings and give the return that's there? Um, I know that it is fun, but we've all gone through the cycles that are there. There are places for pinballs and things like that, and pinballs are much more reliable than they ever were before. But I can't justify the investment for 15 or more $1,000s for a given piece of equipment that has kind of a niche market, too small a market in most cases that goes from there. So it's got to be something that's going to go on for a while. Size is critical. I am really excited about the direction that Triotech is taking, which is bigger pieces that are offering more visual bang for the buck than anything I've seen at a fair cost. There's bunches of better than ever cranes that are out there. We used to have the standard across the board of trying to get eel-out cranes because qualitatively they were so much better than anything else.
Yep.
But not to diss them because they still make a quality product. There's a lot of really good quality cranes that hold their value and cost less. They have more bells and whistles on them than they ever did. Monitors, LED packages, information gathering that's better than before. So it's balancing that act to make sure, again, it's going to be. I can't think of a piece of equipment that you can buy without saying, is it going to be here and still earning well in 3 years? If it can't do that muster, shouldn't even talk about it. But it's really looking at the 5, 7, 10 year time frame. That's what gets you over the hump.
Howard, with your clients and with yourself, do you have a specific metric that helps you make decisions about purchase?
It's balancing several, and we could probably have a whole webinar just on game purchasing. But some of the key ones are that all of what George said. In addition, you want to look at payout. You can't have a lot of times the quick games that have a high payout will be your highest earners on a collection report. But you can play, you know, you, if a big bass wheel and a driving game are both continuously utilized for an hour, you're going to have a lot more money in the big bass wheel. It doesn't mean that the other game wasn't popular. So you have to balance that,
Mm.
right? Yeah, the payouts, the time people are getting for the game, And another one is cannibalization. There are, like if a salesperson tells you you buy this game for $10,000 and it does 1,000 a week, you'll get your money back in 10 weeks. It's not true because that game's not all that $1,000 is not all new. Some of it is cannibalized. So
Oh,
figuring
yeah.
out, does a game really, add value or not? Some do.
Bring in some incremental income. Yeah.
The ticket ring crane from Smart absolutely increases the revenue in the arcade. I've measured it many times. Kids walking around with those things get people excited and get them to go in there and get them to spend more money. It does not cannibalize. However, if you get a bunch of ticket cranes and then you have too many, all of a sudden you'll see some of them start to dip. So it's I'll steal my dad's line. It's not rocket science, but there is a science to it.
There you go. Oh, so we got George and Howard McCullough today. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, I have gone too far over time. Shocker. That's how I do things. But I still want to ask this last question. If you all could give our listeners one piece of advice, what would that be? Sydney.
Well, that's a tricky one because there's lots of things I think I'd say, but I think above all, remove all the obstacles to your customer engaging in your FEC while maintaining your guest experience.
All right. I love that. That's the thing. And the efficiency, isn't that a delicate balancing act of working against labor efficiencies and using AI for efficiencies and creating technological experiences because we know that's what people want and still providing the
You
kind
want
of
to make
guest
it easy and
experience.
welcoming. You want people to come back, whether it's booking, whether it's online, your website, whether it's right when they walk in. Are you ready? Is your equipment working? Does it look good? You don't want them to walk by or walk in and turn around for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Or if they're
Yeah.
looking for something to do, you don't want there to be any obstacle for them to come in and have an experience in your location.
I always want everybody to have the norm experience. Don't you remember on oh darn, I just forgot the name of the
Cheers.
show.
Cheers.
Cheers, thank you. Where they open the door and everybody's like, Norm, because everybody knows your name. I'm like, if that's the experience, we could have a broken game, right? Because if they knew your name, you can't have a single broken game, can you? Because the customer says, none of their games work. I've heard that before. George, one piece of advice.
Um, it's probably more personal than anything, but it's remaining open and honest as you go on. One of the things that I think our industry, any business has, is are you really learning lessons? Are you thinking deeply enough about what you're going to do? And can you get your own bias out of the way to make good decisions? And it's a really hard thing to do as you look back and say, am I open to new creativity, new ideas? Am I going to be willing to listen to bad news that may run against what I'm thinking?
I love that. Getting your own, I'm writing that down, bias out of the way. That's hard because we have it, you know.
We all do.
That's great. All right, Howard, you get to do the last one. You can be the last word.
Okay, I think that we're all in this together. So you have suppliers, distributors. I'm thinking about the association now, which brings a lot of these groups together, which is a microcosm of our industry, and even competitors. That I when our industry's doing well and we have manufacturers making good equipment and distributors supporting that and customers taking good care of their guests and not ripping them off or tricking them or sometimes there's shortcuts people will take to try to cut out one of the segments of the industry or to shortchange a customer for a short-term profit, and that doesn't work. So I think that we're stronger together when we work and we share information, and in the end, I think that it works out well. The industry's been really good to me since I've been a little kid. Like, I like to make fun of Walmart, which was one of our biggest route clients. My dad was always like, well, they put you through college those quarters, so you don't make fun of Walmart too much. So anyway, I think that, yeah, I think that's it. We're all in it together.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I want to give a shout out to this committee. It is, it's been an amazing 2 years. My stint as president is almost over. And I have been so inspired by the number of people that have said, hey, let me come be together. Let me come do this work with you. And I think, isn't he our chairman of this
Yep.
particular
Yeah.
committee? I see him on here, and we have some of our other
John
committee
Brady's with us. Yeah.
John Brady's here. All three of these lovely people are on our location operator committee, and I thank you all for your time and your energy and your
Bess
willingness.
McIntyre, he's here.
There you go. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, that's really good. That's really good. But it's just fantastic to be in an industry where we are willing to share, and it's so fun every time I'm out somewhere and we bring other people that are not in this industry into something we're doing. People are like, wow, I
Yeah.
can't, like you said, Howard, like our competitors, we're kind of all putting our heads together. And
Mhm.
I remember long ago, I think I was working at Ideal, and I was standing in a huddle, and somebody from Embed and from Intercard, and I was there with Ideal and maybe one other side, and we're like buds and hugging each other, and it was good to see each other, and then we all kind of step back and we're like, well, God, we all work for different people now, huh? But that's just how it is. It absolutely is. So I hope y'all had a great time today with this webinar. I know I did. And I think there were some real wonderful, wonderful gold nuggets. George, Sydney, Howard, thank you so much. Pete,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, Beth. To close out, listen, we got more stuff going on. We're heading back to Washington, D.C. the 9th, 10th, and 11th of June. That'll include a product showcase where we're going to show congressional legislators just what we do here in America, manufacturing some great product. We've got our annual meeting coming up in September. You want to block out that first week in September to join us in Dallas back at the Warwick Melrose for a sensational event. We just tipped the tip of the iceberg last year, and we're going to take a little deeper dive this year. So block out that week, make plans to be in Dallas. More information coming out soon.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
So long, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.